जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय जय गोपीजन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय जय गोपीजन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन 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 यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ राधा खीरचोर गोपीनाथ राधे जय रा खीरचोर जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद श्रीला प्रभुपाद जय हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Dandi Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada की अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की आप सब वैष्णव की हरे कृष्णा. Thank you very much for choosing to spend your Tuesday morning at ISKCON Toronto. Welcome you. We hope you have a great experience. Hare Krishna. So we are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, 25th chapter, text number 54. So we have it here on the board. So we'll chant the word by word, then we'll chant the whole verse. Is that okay? Andha Amisham Pauranam Nirvak Peshaskrita Ubhau Akshanvatam Adhipati Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha Andhavamisham Pauranam Nirvak Peshaskrita Akshanvatam Adhipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha Andhavamisham Pauranam Nirvak Peshaskrita Akshanvatam Adhipati Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha Andhavamisham Pauranam Nirvak Peshaskrita Akshanvatam Adhipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha Andhavamisham Pauranam Nirvak Peshaskrita Akshanvatam Adhipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha अन्धाममीशां पौराणां निर्वाक्पेशस्कृतावुभौ अक्षण्वतामधिपतिस्ताभ्यां याति करोति च अन्धावमीशां पौराणां निर्वाक्पेशस्कृतावुभौ अक्षण्वतामधिपतिस्ताभ्यां याति करोति च. Vaishnavis, please chant. Go ahead. Anyone, please chant. Go ahead. The verse is right here. You lead and everybody else will follow. Go ahead. Andhavamisham Pauranam Nirvakpeshaskrutavubhau Akshanvatam Adhipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha. Does anybody else want to chant? We have one opportunity. Anyone? Okay. Yes, go ahead. Andhamamisham Pauranam Nirvakpeshaskrutavubhau Akshanvatam Adhipatis Tabhyam Yati Karoti Cha. We'll read the translation also. Please repeat. Of the many inhabitants of this city, there are two persons named Nirvak and Peshaskrit. Although King Puranjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is a reference to the arms and legs of the living entity. The two legs do not speak and they are blind. If a person simply trusts his legs to take him walking, he is likely to fall into a hole or bump into something. Thus, led by the blind legs, one's life may be placed in jeopardy. Of the senses that are working, the hands and legs are very important, but they have no eyes to see. This means that in the hands and legs there are no holes. In the head there are many holes, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears and 1 mouth. But lower down in the arms and legs there are no holes. Consequently, the arms and legs have been described as andha, blind. Although the living entity has many holes in his body, he nonetheless has to work with his hands and arms. Although the living entity is the master of many other senses, when he has to go somewhere, do something or touch something, he has to use his blind legs and hands. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for your kindness. Actually, I'm not qualified to give this class in the presence of all these amazing, illustrious souls. Anandamaya Prabhu, Radhesham Prabhu, all the souls who have dedicated yourselves to Krishna and his service. But out of your kindness, because I'm a visitor, I'm here. Thank you very much. I'll try my best to use your time and attention so that the acharyas and all of the Vaishnavas may be pleased. Just a quick note, I'm returning today from my little trip to visit my parents and go on pilgrimage for 2 weeks. I'm returning this evening. I have visited Srila Prabhupada's places of pastimes in Juhu, Sri Radha Ras Bihari, and here in Hyderabad, Sri Radha Madan Mohan. I've also had the pleasure and privilege of going to the New Vedic Cultural Center in Pune, and it's been just very enlivening. In order to understand what I'm speaking about, you should come to the West and see what the Mangalarti is like, and then you will see what I mean. So thank you very much for enlivening me and charging me up. I'm very grateful to all of you. So in this verse, in this context, in this chapter, which is called the process of creation, and then this particular chapter, which is the characteristics of King Puranjana, Narad Muni, who is explaining through an allegorical story. Allegory means he's constructing an example, and he's describing the living entity who is living in the city of 9 gates. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes, right, how Navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. He describes a pure-hearted living entity who is living in the city of 9 gates, but is not causing any external material activities to be done, or neither doing them. So, however, most of us living in the city of 9 gates are experiencing tremendous misery. And this misery is being described here in this particular aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam. In this particular verse, now, the city of 9 gates has been described as 7 gates that are above ground and 2 gates which are hidden, subterranean. And different gates, for example, the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, the tongue, the mouth, all have been described in some detail. And if you go back to the previous classes that are recorded, many devotees have explained this in beautiful detail. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai, Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Devi Shri Sudarshan ki jai. Thank you very much. So he has, I'm thanking them for gracing the occasion. So in this particular verse, which we are going to focus on today, the hands and the legs are being described, and they are described as being blind. Now you can imagine, the hands and legs don't have any discrimination of their own. If you shut the eyes and start walking, you're sure to stumble upon something or fall down the stairs or something of that sort. So clearly they are not capable of seeing anything. Neither are the hands capable of discriminating anything. So especially we see that when someone has lost control of their mind and their senses, they use their hands for anything. For example, they use them to hurt others. They use them to, in all sorts of abominable ways. So we can see that the hands themselves don't have a discrimination. The discrimination comes from the higher senses in general. So in this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada is describing 2 different kinds of senses, right? So in this verse, the translation, although King Puranjana was the ruler of the citizens who possessed eyes. In other words, the living entity in his perfect state is actually meant to be in control of all the knowledge gathering senses, the eyes, ears, nostrils, the tongue, the mouth, etc. So that those senses will then guide the working senses, such as the genitals, the evacuating organ, the hands and the legs. So these 5 senses can be in control of the living entity. However, when the living entity is in material consciousness, this control is lost. When it sometimes so happens that when a person is getting ready to leave their bodies, they go into the hospital and they start losing control of their various faculties one by one. And this is not so unusual most of us have already lost control of all these faculties. That we are using them in an uncontrolled way. So specifically, it is mentioned that these senses, the hands and the legs, nirvak and peshaskrit, are described as blind. Okay, so it's worth asking ourselves the question: who is blind? So the simple answer, straightforward answer, is one who cannot see where they're going or what they're doing. Right? They don't know where they're going. Other kind of blindness is that they don't care where they're going. They know that they're going in the darkness, but they don't care about it. That's the second kind. And the third kind of blindness is they know and they may also care, but they are unable to correct themselves. For example, in the Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra is an example. When he spoke to Sri Krishna, he confessed that actually, my dear Sri Krishna, I know that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I know that what you are saying is right. I know that what you are saying must be done, but unfortunately, I cannot do it. People say to us, yes, we know that we should be reading the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, we know that we should not be doing certain things, but unfortunately, we cannot do it. And we don't want to touch the Bhagavad Gita because we are worried that touching the Bhagavad Gita is going to change our lives in such a way that we cannot do the things that we are currently doing. On the street, it's a common experience, Especially if they are devout, they actually offer obeisances to the Bhagavad Gita, but they go 3 steps further. They don't want to come close into the orbit of the Bhagavad Gita. So we see that often. So in our society also, this analogy applies. Okay, our society is actually blind. Prahlad Maharaj has given the perfect example in this case. And he says that people don't know what is in their best interest. Andha, so what they say, Nate vidu swarthagathim hi Vishnu. Everybody wants their swartha, right? Everybody, number one first, right? Devamrita Swami Maharaj says, everybody stepped aside, number one first, right? Always, even in a dangerous situation. If there's, it happened in the Titanic. There were some interesting personalities whose responsibility it was to save all the other passengers, but they put themselves first in the lifeboats, knowing that there weren't enough lifeboats for everybody, right? So number one first. So everybody is interested in their own self-interest, and there's nothing wrong in this. This is natural, right? However, Nate vidu swarthagatim hi Vishnu. People don't understand that their self-interest is in Vishnu. Nade vidu swarthagatim Vishnu. Durashayaye bahirarthamanina andhaya thandher upaniyamana stepi satantra urudamni baddha. So Prahlad Maharaj is giving this very beautiful instruction that they don't know that their primary self-interest is in Vishnu, because Vishnu is the self of the self. In the Upanishad, it's described that Krishna is described as the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, right? He's described as the sense of the sense. He's described as the mind of the mind. He's in the various Upanishads, he's described in this way. So people, and in another conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami later on in the Bhagavatam, especially after the pastime of the Brahma Vimohana Leela, where Shukadeva Goswami commented that they love Krishna more than they love themselves. And Maharaj Parikshit was, how is it possible that someone loves someone else more than themselves? Right? So in the Brahma Vimohana Leela, it was described how the love for their children increased because Krishna had taken the place of their children and expanded himself as all of these children and all of the calves and cows and so on. And it was very bewildering, not very bewildering really, bewildering for us maybe, but not for Maharaj, but he's asking for our benefit. So it was very bewildered how someone can love someone else more than themselves and their own children and so on and so forth. And then Shukadeva Goswami explains that because we love something because it's connected to us. In other words, we love this body because it's connected to us. Us means, me means the soul. Because I own this, I live in this body. I don't own this body really. I live in this body, therefore I am interested in this body. I'm not interested in some other body because I don't live in it. However, if that body is connected to my body in some way, by some kind of familial relationship or some kind of service relationship or something that I need from them, for example, or something that I am looking for, then we have attachment to that body also, right? And then everything connected to this body, the kurta that I wear, for example, right? The phone that I use in order to communicate with the others, like we develop an attachment because it is related to the soul. So because the Vrajvasis, the residents of Vrindavan, are pure devotees, they are attached to Krishna without having to learn about all of these things, because they implicitly understand that Krishna is the like source of the soul. Like they don't have to externally understand this. That's the position of the pure devotee. They actually understand this. So there's another analogy here. This, when the acharyas construct these allegories and analogies, they are perfect from so many different angles. So it also refers, this particular analogy also refers to the varnashrama. Like in modern times, especially in the modern times, the varnashram gets a really bad rap. Like the moment you start talking about varnashram, people say, oh, you want to bring back the caste system. Right? And then especially in the West, it's really, really difficult to speak about varnashram. But what they don't understand, and it's our job to help them understand in a way that we need to earn their respect, we need to earn their trust, and then we need to explain to them that there are already natural divisions in society. Even in the West, it's not a classless society. The child of a person who has gone to Harvard will go to Harvard, right? It's guaranteed, right? Because they have the money and they have the contacts to be able to get the child into Harvard. Even in India, if a child of a highly ranked armed forces officer can easily get into the armed forces because they know the system. They know that very well. Same thing with the legal system or the medical system, etc. So it's not, this classless society is a myth. It doesn't actually exist anywhere, right? What, however, so for example, in the varnashram system, it is described that the brahmanas are meant to be the head of society, which means they are meant to be the knowledge gathering senses. And they are meant to fulfill that purpose of gathering knowledge and disseminating it to the rest of society. Because apart from these knowledge, apart from the brahmanas, the others are not really equipped with knowledge gathering mechanisms. Right? You see the senses, the ears, the eyes, they're not equipped with that. The hands are not equipped with anything. So kshatriyas are meant to be the hands of society. Right? When the kshatriyas are not properly guided by the head, then they go berserk. You see strong men, strong gunda type people. So they have a kshatriya mentality, but they don't have any guidance. Now, many of political leaders are also in that category. Right? They have the strength, but they don't know where to go and how to apply that strength. Right? The Vaishyas, business mentality, they have a tendency to make money. Right? They have a tendency to make money, but they don't have any way how to make money exactly and how to use that money. For example, the very pious Vaishyas, many very pious families. I was speaking to Brajari Prabhu in Juhu, and he was talking about very pious Vaishya families who, without asking, bring crores of donations every year to the temple, because they have that piety and they're inclined to hear and listen to the Brahmanas, right? And then there are other Vaishyas. You can go and say, can you sponsor 2 Bhagavad Gitas? And they say, what for? What's the use of this Bhagavad Gita, right? So they know how to make money, but they're not interested they don't know how to use that money, right? So, and the Shudras are compared to the legs, which are a very important part of society. Without, you can cut off the legs of a particular body. It sometimes happens that the legs are amputated, and then you can see that the body becomes completely useless, right? A person who cannot use their legs becomes very dependent on others, and it's extremely difficult situation for them. So, in fact, in the Varnashrama, it is described how all the Varnas are meant to work. Adapumbir Dvija Shrestha Varnashrama Vibhagasaha Swanustistasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Every varna and every ashram is meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to their capacities. So what we have not done well in the varnashram is we have not actually helped them to understand how their service is very valuable. If you go to, especially to traditional places where you can see how the brahmanas are treating the shudras even today. You can see how the zamindars who are meant to be the kshatriyas are treating them. And there's no wonder that they have tremendous resentment. And the day that they have a little bit of power, they will hit back. They will do anything crazy because they have the legs, remember? They don't have the discrimination. So they will do whatever is within their power. And this is happening, the Naxalite movement in various parts of the world, the various kinds of uprisings that are happening, the revolts, they're all happening because the Shudras are not being properly treated and properly trained in how to behave, how they are so valuable. Srila Prabhupada says when we offer flower to Krishna when we're performing the arti, we don't offer flower to Krishna's head, we offer it to Krishna's lotus feet. Right? So in other words, every part of society, every part of Krishna's body is highly, highly valuable and important. And it's our purpose actually in ISKCON to convey that, to take that knowledge to everybody and say, sir, you're very valuable. The service that you're rendering to society, I cannot do. Right? I can lift, few boxes, but after that, most devotees, they'll be down with a back pain for the rest of the day, right? If they do too much hard labor, right? So it's very difficult. So And it comes back to the previous class on Sunday that Vedanta Chaitanya Prabhu was giving, where he was saying, decision making is a key faculty, and those who are incapable of making decisions are very eager to make decisions, he was saying. So that's very, very important, because they have not built any trust in those who can train them how to take good decisions, like how to make good decisions. There's no trusted relationship between the Brahmanas and the rest of the society, because there is no love towards everybody, right? That seeing every part and pole, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, is missing in society. The Brahmanas have completely missed the boat in this particular point. So how not to be blind, right? It's one of my spiritual master's favorite topics. He said, you must develop Shastra Chakshu, Shastra Chakshu. Right? He always stresses on that. See everything through the eyes of scripture. Don't see through your own eyes, because we have talked about it. Even though we have all these knowledge gathering senses, we are bound up, right? So we need to see the whole world and our own situation and everybody else through the eyes of scripture, right? So we might see externally somebody bedraggled and not properly dressed, etc., but they deserve to be asked if they will read the Srila Prabhupada's books. We don't judge a book by its cover. We approach every single soul. When Vaisheshika Prabhu trains people in the book distribution, he says, don't judge externally. Approach every single soul. You never know who is the soul who's going to respond to the message. Now, not just, educated-looking people, but every single person. And then I have met so many people here in Hyderabad who said, Sadhu Radu. I said, Intlo evarikana ostunda? Does anybody read in your house? Okay, so you take this book and get them to read this book for you. They will benefit. Do you think that they know everything that is in this book? They say, they're doing all kinds of nonsense. Clearly, they don't know this knowledge. So see, now you take this book home and then you get them to read. You will benefit because you relish it, right? You want to read this book. You said Sadhu Radu. In other words, if you could read, you would have read it. And so you take this book with you, get your son or your daughter to sit down and read this book to you. How much time do they spend with you anyways, right? They're always outside on their phones or outside, right? So then you sit down for 15 minutes and get them to read the book to you. So we can develop this Shastra Chakshu, but in history we see that this Shastra has been misused, right? So Shastra is taught according to time, place and circumstance, and somebody who does not clearly understand the time, place and circumstance part of it can misuse the application of the Shastra and kind of apply the wrong thing in the wrong place. Again, Vedanta Chaitanya Prabhu was saying again that, he was attending a meeting in which two sides were discussing a particular type, and each party had brought Prabhupada's quotes. Everybody had brought Prabhupada's quotes and were arguing against each other, talking past each other, basically. Right? So that can happen too, which is why we need the association of Guru and Sadhu. So many devotees have given this example that it's a GPS, that you have three things. You have Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. And so you triangulate these three things and don't try to understand the Shastra with our own intelligence, but we see what Guru is saying, how the Shastra is applied in which time, place and circumstance, what the Sadhu is doing, right? Exactly in the like when you come to Mangalarti, why is the Sadhu, offering obeisances in this direction? Oh, that's because they don't want to point their feet towards Srila Prabhupada. Okay, that's a good idea. That's a good thing to remember. So we can get that from that. And in fact, this Shastra Chakshu, we have to spread this, that Varnashrama is not meant to be by birth, right? Well, there is a very good chance that a son of a Brahmana or daughter of a Brahmana can become Brahminical. It's not that it's automatic. And as we see from the scripture, like many great souls have started off in other Varnas and have actually ended up becoming Brahmanas. Vishwamitra is an example, born as a Kshatriya king, right? Became a Maharshi. Like great Rishi, incomparable personality. There are so many other personalities like that, right? In the Jabaliya Upanishad, with Adi Shankaracharya quotes from, there's a story of a little boy who comes to a guru and says, "Please initiate me." And the guru asks him, "What is your name and what is your gotra?" Right? He asks him. It's a common question because they want to ascertain if this person has the qualification to be able to understand the Shastra. Because it's said that Shastra, Srila Prabhupada calls it similar to Shastra, given in the wrong hands, can cause all kinds of disturbances, right? Like it can, people can misuse it. So he wanted to judge that. So he went to his mother and asked him, who is my father? What is my gotra? The guru is asking me for the gotra. And the mother said to him, "My dear boy, actually, I just know that I am your mother. I don't know who is your father. In other words, she was a, person who had been with, many men. She was a maid servant who had been, you know, serving many men. So the boy came back to the guru, right? Generally, when someone hears that news, they will try to hide it. They will try to gloss over it. They will try to put a spin on it. It's a very common thing. Put a spin on it, right? When revenue targets are not met, the CEO puts a spin on it, right? Right. So he did not. He just came and said, "I don't know who my father is. I'm Jabali, right? The son of Jabali, right? So I'm her." So he said, "You are Brahmana. Was Satya Shama Shruti, you are Brahmana. Come, I will initiate you and I will teach you." So Jabali was son of a prostitute, right? And was made into a Brahmana by his guru, right? So anyone who says that birth is the qualification and is the only sole qualification, we have to really lovingly, not no getting into fights unnecessarily. It's not going to help anybody. Lovingly help them to understand these examples. Why would Adi Shankaracharya glorify Jabali? Right? Why Adi Shankaracharya himself? Right? Why would he do this? Like, why would Narad Muni initiate Mrgari, a hunter, a meat eater? Right? Like he would half kill the animals. Why would Narad Muni do this? Right? So there are many examples like this. Prahlad is the example. Right? Prahlad was born in what? In an Asuri family. Right? His father was the greatest atheist in the whole world, like complete anti Brahminical culture. Like he was like, don't do this, let's kill Vishnu. Right? That was his character. But Prahlad is a Mahajan, right? Prahlado Janako Bhishmo, Balir Vayyasakir Vayam, Bali Maharaj. It's like so many examples of people who are not Brahminical but are Guru, right, to the whole society. Right? Do you think Prahlad is not accepted by by all Brahmanas in the world? Like we have to, because Krishna says, Chatur Varna Maya Shatam, Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Right? Janma might be there or not there, it doesn't matter, but what is the guna? And that's what Srila Prabhupada brought. That's what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati brought. That's what Bhakti Vinod Thakur brought. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought. Jai Krishna Tattvaveta, say Guru Hai. And the purpose of the knowledge acquiring senses is to Pathan, Yajan, Yajan, Dan, Patigra. These are the six duties of the Brahmanas. They have to read the scripture. They have to disseminate. Pathan, they have to disseminate the scriptures to others. Yajan, they have to perform sacrifice. Sacrifice of the body, sacrifice of the mind, sacrifice of the words, and so on and so forth. And Brahmanas have to Pathan, Yajan, they have to help others, teach how to chant Hare Krishna. Right? This is our duty. Anybody who comes to the temple, we have to take care of them as they come into the temple, walk into the temple, figure out if they can live with the book of Srila Prabhupada, figure out if they can chant at least one round, or at least one mantra, tell them about Sri Gaur Nitai, get them to raise their hands in front of Gaur Nitai and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In other words, all the formal official programs that happen, you have the chanting counter, you have the book counter, you have every single person in the community needs to be that kind of person. Bring the person in and connect them. Connect them with other devotees, connect them on the basis of their language, on the basis of their profession, on their family situation, where they live. Like, we have to figure out how to connect people to Krishna, really. And that's how they will learn how they are Swanushthitastha dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Then they'll be, naturally inclined. What can I do to please the Lord? Right? I can give 10 rupees today. Tomorrow I can bring a banana for Krishna. Like they will naturally want to please Krishna, and that will actually bring about this removal of this blindness from society, right? So also in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us the hint and instruction. Bhagavad Gita contains everything. So he says, like in the 6th chapter, he says, Uddhared atmanas natmanam avasadayad atmaiva ripura atmaiva bandhur atma Atmano Bandhur, Atmaiva Ripuratmana. Thank you very much. So, Krishna, thank you very much, Radhesham Prabhu. So, Krishna is saying how in various purports, Srila Prabhupada has described how the Atma is described as the soul, as the mind, and as the body. So, in the description as the body, Atma refers to the working and the knowledge gathering senses. So, those senses can be used as, can be our friend. We can deliver ourselves with those, like Maharaj Ambarish, right? Using all of his senses in the service of Sri Krishna. So we can follow Srila Prabhupada's process, the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us, attend Mangalarti. It's a great, very exemplary, like to see this temple room full of devotees is just amazing. I'm hoping that everywhere in all temples across the world, we have this kind of ecstatic Mangalartis. And Srila Prabhupada's program, chant Hare Krishna sincerely, right? And Rupa Goswami's instruction, Utsahat Dhairya, Ujjayat Nishchayat Dhairya, Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat, like being enthusiastic. And this is another very favorite topic of my spiritual master. He talks about Utsaha. Utsaha, people think it is something that is a feeling that comes and goes, right? Sometimes I'm Utsahi, sometimes I'm not Utsahi. But my spiritual master said, Srila Prabhupada ordered me to be enthusiastic in a letter. He ordered me to. In other words, enthusiasm is a choice we make. Like we wake up in the morning, whether we want to be sluggish and whatever, or we want to be enthusiastic and like it's another day, um, another opportunity to chant. So this is our choice, our personal choice. Utsaha nischayat. Utsaha comes, then nishchaya comes, then dhairya also will come automatically. Like these three follow one another. Like it starts with utsaha. Of course, there's false utsaha and things like that, but we won't get into that right now. So our goal is to influence every single person that we meet. Right? This is especially the month of Kartik. Just imagine the benefit that somebody will get from chanting Hare Krishna once, right? Or taking one of Srila Prabhupada's books, or giving us a donation somehow, whatever they can afford, right? Just figure out a way. We don't need their money. Krishna is the master of goddess of fortune. We are taking their money only to benefit them. Vaisheshika Prabhu used this line when we are collecting money. He said, "We don't need the money. We can afford to give you the book for free." And he says, look at our temple. It's on Avenue Road. It's like one of the poshest areas in Toronto. Right? Buying a house is impossible there. Right? So he says, but we are taking the money to benefit you. And it's a fact. We are taking their money only to benefit them. Right? Otherwise, we have enough rich people who will sponsor 1 crore Bhagavad Gitas and we can give them all over the world. Like there's no shortage of that. And we're taking their money so that they will be benefited because they have that money goes to who? It goes to Srila Prabhupada's movement, to managing, printing more books, etc. And they actually have done a yajna, right? They have done sacrifice of their possessions, which is very valuable for them. So that's why we take the money from them. Otherwise, we don't need their money. Right? Like we can easily, there are enough grihasthas, enough supporters of the movement. So I'm going to conclude with an amazing verse that I found in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which actually tells us, actually connects the dots between that, between Prahlad Maharaja's verse and the verse that we have today. Right? It's 5.1.15, Prabhu. If you can bring up 5.1.15 so that everybody can see this verse. It's not commonly recited, but it's a very, it has a particular phrase that just hits the point today. I'm going to conclude with that verse, and then we can take corrections, comments, and questions. And okay, we have it. 5.1.15. Okay. We'll read that together. We'll also read the translation, which is a little bit long. And our homework for today, today is to read the purport of this 5.1.15. It's a very delightful purport that Srila Prabhupada has written. So let us 5.1.15 purport. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Please repeat. Ishabhisrishtam hyavarunmahenga Dukkham sukham va guna karma sanga Asthaya tattad yadayuntanathas Takchushmatandha iva niyamana. Can we have two more chanting, two more recitations? Ishabhisrishtam hyavarunmahenga Dukkham sukham va guna karma sanga Athaya tattad yadayuntanathas Chakshusmatandha iva niyamana. Ishabhisrishtam hyavarunmahenga Dukkham sukham va guna karma sanga Asaya tyatta yadayuntanatha chakshushmatandha iva niyamana. Translation. My dear Priyavata, please repeat. My dear Priyavrata, according to our association with different modes of material nature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives us our specific bodies and the happiness and distress we achieve. One must therefore remain situated as he is and be conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead exactly as a blind man is led by a person who has eyes with which to see. So this is how we transcend that blindness that we have. Okay, once more we'll read the second sentence. One must therefore remain situated as he is and be conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead exactly as a blind man is led by a person who has eyes with which to see. So it's just Sarvadharman Parityaja said in a different way. Okay, so I'll conclude here. And if there's any corrections, comments, or questions, 5:1:15. 5:1:15. Give him the mic, please.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks for permitting. In the reference which been given, Utsaha Nishayan Dhairyan, I am very much with a doubtful clarity about this Nishayan. Because to explain others, it is the goal to be achieved or the process to be involved.
It's both. It's both. So the thing is, again, I've heard this many times from many Vaishnavas that we can only convince someone to the extent that we are convinced. So if I am not convinced about it, like Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna lifted Govardhan hill for 7 days and 7 nights, and you think maybe. So like that, however much I have faith, I can convince someone. And at a certain point, ultimately it's their own decision. We cannot force anyone, right? So we cannot force anyone. Everyone has yatechasya tathakuru. Everyone has that freedom. We cannot force. But yes, it's a fact that when souls come in contact with those who have high degree of conviction, like all our spiritual masters and great souls,
Yes.
then they get convinced very quickly because of the depth of their own their conviction. Sometimes it so happens that you can go to a place, a samadhi place of a great soul. Like you go to Srila Prabhupada's samadhi in Vrindavan, or you go to any acharya, any Vaishnava acharya samadhi, like Mantralayam, right? You go there, sit there and chant Hare Krishna. You will get. I just recently went there. That was the fourth place of pilgrimage, and I have, outside of Vrindavan and Mayapur, I have never chanted as much and as well as I did there. In spite of the fact that it was bustling with people, it was not necessarily. They only open the temple at 6 o'clock. People are already in the mode of passion, running around, children running around, people having family reunions and get-togethers, and people doing all kinds of things there. But sitting there and chanting was great because of the power of that saint who is in that place. So similarly, we come to the temple every morning for chanting Hare Krishna because to get the power of the saints who live in the temple, right? So we benefit greatly from them. So Utsa, but please, Prabhu, do you have anything to add to that, please? No? Does that help, Prabhu? His mic is off. Press and hold. It's off, still off. Okay, just say yes.
we are very much to be grateful towards his presentation and himself. And this Bhagavad Gita is main thing and followed by Srimad Bhagavatam. And this Bhagavad Gita is not being recited in other temples. They are avoiding it, particularly regarding this Chaturvarna Maya system concept. So, how to...
It's not true. It's not true. Last year in Toronto, we distributed more than 2,000 Bhagavad Gitas to other Hindu temples. They took it. They gratefully accepted it and they read it. And see, what will happen is everything takes time. You need to build the trust. And you build a trusted relationship with them. You don't present yourself as a competitor. You present yourself as a servant.
Yes. Yes. But taking Gitas and reading in home for self is not sufficient, I think. And I see the lacking of presentation in the temples of recitation of Bhagavad Gita.
It's a common observation. I have, we were discussing in the family also that, that's the fundamental contribution of ISKCON, to disseminate the knowledge far and wide to whoever is interested. And even if you're not interested, we'll figure out a way to get you interested. Right? So that's our primary contribution. I think it needs to be done. It needs to be done. And we cannot overnight, change someone's mind, especially because in the early days we may have approached someone in an antagonistic way or in some way that caused some negative reaction.
Of course, I accept it.
What is the question?
What is the question?
Come to a question.
Yes, that's what. These all questions. And even Ramanujacharya presented his commentary on Bhagavad Gita. The Sri Vaishnavas, they are not following that. And they are not presenting in their temples. And the recitation of Gitas is...
Please don't say that. Please don't say that. Don't say that. They are following very nicely. They are presenting the Bhagavad Gita. The philosophy of Ramanuja is very carefully protected and preserved in the Shiva Nishtama temples. There may be some odd exceptions, as you will find odd exceptions here also. We are all trying to learn. It's not that everybody is like pure-hearted yet. So yeah, it'll come. But don't say that they are not presenting. They are.
You are yourself a Brahmana, thinking man, yourself. I am telling about you. No, you have come, I have heard you speak hundreds of times in the same temple. Why don't you present yourself? Huh? We all can ask ourselves, how much am I extending myself? Now in your position, in whatever situation you are in, how much efforts am I making to reach the copies of Bhagavad Gita to people and speak the pure message of Bhagavad Gita to people? If you ask this question, then you won't offend Ramanuja followers or Madhva followers or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followers. Rather than poke our nose in others' affairs, it is better for us to try to do something ourselves.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, in the verse, the hands and legs are described as blind person. Generally, we hear that the senses generally drag the person towards sense gratification. So, the senses actually makes the living entity blind towards what is the right path. So here in the verse, it's told that although King Purijan was the master of the citizens who have eyes, he was unfortunately associated with hands and legs, these are blind. So is that meaning that the senses are called as giving the right path and hands and legs are blind? So they are, because ultimately the hands and legs are also guided by the senses. Until the senses are blind, hands and legs cannot be blind. So why the blame is given to the hands and legs? Because
no, the blame is not given to the hands and legs. Its fact is stated that they are blind, and the real reason is although the King Purijan was the ruler of the citizens who possessed eyes. In other words, he was associating with the hands and legs. So, for example, what does the hand want to do? The hand wants to touch some soft object. So the other senses can be used, but letting the hand do whatever it likes is a problem. Letting the leg do whatever it likes is a problem. Right? So that's what is being mentioned here. And yes, what you're saying is also true, that if our knowledge gathering senses are not in the control of Hrishikesha, as was mentioned in 5.1.15, then everything is blind. Like Dhritarashtra was blind from his eyes, but he also blind from inside, right? Until Vidura came and helped him to understand, right? So it's like that. So they're not being blamed. It's just a fact that they are blind, and the king is meant not to associate with them in the sense that you see that famous picture of the Bhagavad Gita, right? With the chariot, the horses are the senses, the mind is the reins, the intelligence is the driver, and the passenger is there. So the passenger is depicted as blind. You notice that he has no eyes, the passenger. So the passenger has no eyes, which means that they are not, the soul is not in control of the intelligence, the mind, and the senses. So naturally, the hands and legs will do whatever. So, it's just a mention of fact. And sometimes that's misunderstood. For example, another verse, Striyo Vaishyas Tatha Shudras Tepi Ante Param Gatim, that verse is also misunderstood, that Striyo, Vaishya, Shudra are mentioned as low birth. But low birth, Striyo, Vaishya, Shudra, there are four categories there. But it's misunderstood that the low birth is these three categories. And that causes so much problems when we are preaching outside. And people have written like websites on this. And we say, sir, this is a simple misunderstanding of this particular thing. Low born, Striya, Vaishya, Shudra, these four categories are all going to benefit from following the process of bhakti. It's like that. Statement of fact. So somebody might read this and say, oh, you're blaming the Shudras. No, no, no. We are just mentioning a fact. Make sense? Do we have any other? And Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki.